Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org. Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. The Safeway app features shopping for curbside pickup and home delivery, plus meal planning, pharmacy, and more. Learn more at Safeway.com.
A big day for a Colorado astronaut set to take off to the International Space Station tonight. Nicole Ayers grew up around Colorado Springs and flew with the Air Force Academy. This is her first space flight. I'm Bazi Kanani. Coming up, thousands of people wound around the block to see their member of Congress.
I need representation.
What they heard in response. Then, an unexpected way steel and aluminum tariffs affect everyone. And a Colorado chef's new mission on TV.
I want to make people happy.
Plus, it's the end of an airline era.
No more free bags. I'm like, okay, bye.
It's Wednesday, March 12th. Here's the news in Colorado today. Coloradans have a lot to say to their members of Congress right now, and they want answers.
I did a lot of town halls over the course of my career. Nothing like this.
I want to know what the Democrats as a group have planned.
Grassroots is what's going to move the needle.
Sounds there from a few of the thousands of people who've shown up in person and over the phone at events over the past couple of weeks. CPR's Washington correspondent Caitlin Kim is here to catch us up on what's happened. A couple of Colorado Congress members have held in-person town halls. What have those been like?
They have been very, very large. Democrat Brittany Pedersen had about 1,800 people attend. There was a long line outside. One couple even drove a couple of hours from the southern end of her district in Teller County up to Jefferson County to be there. Democrat Jason Crow held one with about 1,400 people. Again, the lines wrapped around the block. Many people coming have expressed concerns about DOGE, the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, and the cuts being made, the federal government layoffs, and they want to hear how Democrats in particular are fighting back.
We heard some specific concerns expressed there about DOGE, about wanting stronger leadership from Democrats. How did Representatives Pedersen or Crow respond to those concerns?
Pedersen said Democrats may not be in power, but they're not powerless. She encouraged people to show up and speak up. But otherwise, she really didn't have a good answer, and I think that's part of the problem right now for Democrats. The Democratic strategy seems to be relying on the courts.
We've been talking about our Democratic Congress members. We also have 4 Republican representatives, all of them newly elected in their districts. How are their town halls going?
Well, Republican leaders have been encouraging their members not to do in-person events, mainly because they have held some, not in Colorado, but other places where the members have been challenged by the crowds. They've faced booing crowds, yelling crowds, and Republican leaders don't want those kind of clips going viral. Jeff Hurd just held a telephone town hall last night. Jeff Crank in the Colorado Springs area held a town hall by phone last week. Crank did address at least one touchy subject for Republicans via question, which was possible cuts to Medicaid. And he said there was scaremongering going on. The problem is, days after that teletown hall, a Congressional Budget Office report indicated the GOP can't meet the target in their budget resolution without Medicaid cuts. So expect this issue to continue to come up.
Democratic Senator John Hickenlooper has a telephone town hall scheduled for tonight. So Democrats are using these telephone town halls as well.
Yes, it's not just Republicans. Both Democrats and Republicans are doing this. Senator John Hickenlooper, he loves in-person town halls, but he told me by phone.
You can get to more people faster.
Unlike the House, the Senate hasn't had a recess recently, and Hickenlooper says his office has been getting thousands of calls a week about what Trump is doing, so he wanted to respond somehow.
It's a more convenient way to respond, for sure. Besides these town halls, what are some other opportunities for Coloradans who want answers right now or just want their concerns to be heard?
I mean, I hate to say this, but I think there are kind of limited opportunities. There have been some instances where people have gone so far as to protest in front of a lawmaker's house. This happened to Republican Lauren Boebert. She was very critical of this because she says they were essentially yelling bad things in front of her sons. And frankly, it's not a way to get your point across. A lot of, lawmakers do have meetings that they show on social media, but those aren't publicized in advance and they aren't usually open to the public. So if you want to get your voice heard, it's usually going to be through a call or a letter to the office, which frankly may or may not be answered.
And ultimately, I suppose they will be able to vote, which I'm sure our members of Congress are thinking about right now. Caitlin Kim, thank you.
Thank you.
Tariffs. You've heard a lot about them at this point, and you might even be feeling them now, too, if you have investments, maybe a retirement account. Wall Street had its worst day of the year on Monday. President Trump has suspended broad tariffs, but a 25% fee on steel and aluminum imports is still planned to take effect today. Trump walked back, doubling that 25% tariff on Canadian imports, but it could still spell bad news, not just for businesses like automakers, but also for Colorado artists. Reporter Keely Boyd talked with several artists from Boulder to Colorado Springs. Keely, what kind of art and artists are we talking about here that could be affected?
I predominantly interviewed sculptors, mixed media artists, and fabricators that often work on large scale, think like public artworks that you would encounter at the Denver airport or in the courtyard of a library.
My suppliers can't tell when the price increases are coming, so I'm at the mercy of my suppliers.
Pard Morrison is a Colorado Springs artist. He's incredibly successful, nationally known. He makes colorful aluminum sculptures that look like paintings folded around a column.
And how is he feeling right now?
He is nervous and maybe even a little defeated. Public and private entities that commission art have a proposal period, a budgeting period. And between that time and when funds are released to an artist to procure materials, it can be months or even years before it goes into a museum or a public space.
But since I quoted him 2 years ago, I'm kind of stuck with those prices. And unfortunately, I would have to eat the 25% difference.
There's just no way for his practice to fully absorb those costs.
A lot of artists are already working on tight budgets. If Pard can't afford these more expensive materials, what does he say he'll do?
Those increased material costs will erode his already shrinking margins. He is at the mercy of his suppliers, and there is nowhere to pass along those costs.
So what happens to the art?
It is not made.
You also spoke with some other artists. What are they doing? How are they managing the situation?
Each quite uniquely. This is what's really interesting is how artists adapt to the similar context. Roger Rudiman, who's a Boulder-based artist, is pivoting from steel to resin. Resin is a material that is manufactured domestically and widely available. I really want to stress how it's not a simple move for an artist to adapt. Telling any artist moving from pine to oak or aluminum to steel, they all laugh at that concept and confess that, yes, that it's not a one-for-one. The way these materials move through the world, the way they adapt in different environments are all unique, and it requires an investment of time for an artist to test a new material. They can't just easily pivot to a new one. Stephen Chapman is taking a totally different approach. He is stockpiling steel. He confessed that he executed a large order on the day that the tariffs were announced in February. But he has the space and capacity to do that. Most artists I spoke with can't afford this. I think at the heart of this conversation about trade policies coming to bear on artists' workbenches is that we are seeing macroeconomic events shaping American art.
Keely Boyd, thank you.
Thank you.
Southwest Airlines customers are in mourning today. One of the fundamental things that drew people to the airline is going away. It helped Southwest become Denver's second biggest carrier. But alas, the iconic two bags fly free policy is ending.
This whole thing, okay, no more free bags. I'm like, okay, bye.
That's Nederland resident Barb Panetton. Barb has been flying Southwest since the 1980s, traveling nearly 10 times a year to visit her mom in Texas. She remembers a time when Southwest's carefree spirit was part of the experience.
And it was a fun airline. The attitude of the flight attendants and everybody, I mean, it was just fun. It was fun to fly them.
But according to Barb, the fun is over. There are fewer flights from Denver International Airport. Early check-in keeps getting pricier. And just last year, the airline ditched open seating. Southwest faces a lot of pressure to increase revenue since the hedge fund, Elliott Investment Management, took a stake in the company last year.
I realize they're in business to make money, but I don't know. I don't like it. It's not the LUV. It's not the love that I came to appreciate for so many years.
Southwest's new checked baggage fee will apply to tickets purchased on or after May 28th. Though exact pricing has not been announced yet, many loyal travelers, like Barb, are already feeling a little less love from their once favorite airline. Just listening to this Colorado chef makes me hungry.
All right, I'm just chopping some rosemary. I'm going to be making pancetta.
If that sounds good to you too, then you're in luck. We can all hear more and learn more from Chef Elise Wiggins soon because she's getting her own TV show. CPR's Haley May spent some time with the Denver chef at her restaurant, and then Haley came back and bragged about it. Haley, tough assignment, hanging out at an Italian restaurant with an up-and-coming chef.
Oh my gosh, yeah, so difficult.
I'm sure. What did you learn from Elise Wiggins?
Well, I learned some Italian from her, especially what Catavella means. It's the name of her restaurant in Denver's Central Park neighborhood.
Catavella means naughty girl. That's how I was as a kid, and I like to kind of break the rules a little bit.
Elise likes to find ancient Italian recipes and then change them to give them a modern flair.
I really like to go back to historic dishes, 14th, 15th, 17th century.
So one of those dishes is focaccia di Recco, which is a paper-thin cheese bread that's almost like a cracker.
Yum.
I know. So she learned how to make it in this tiny Italian village of Recco, and she served it in her restaurant for years. In fact, that's how she invents her menu, by heading back to Italy and seeking inspiration.
Italians are very romantic people. They're very passionate people. So there's a story behind everything. You know, the tortellini, that's Venus's navel. Everything has a story behind it, and it just makes dining and eating that much more interesting.
I'll never see tortellini quite the same way again. So how did Chef Elise get into TV?
Yeah, well, she loves to teach, and she said that she's got kind of a knack for helping people understand the chemistry behind cooking.
We put the carrot into the bolognese sauce because there's natural sugars in there. And the natural sugars, not to make your sauce sweet, but if your tomatoes are acidic, that natural sugar that's in there negates acid, right?
Okay, I'm taking notes. Put carrot in red sauce.
Yes, exactly. Now, Chef Elise had plans to share tips like this on a PBS show back in 2019, but the pandemic interrupted it. Then, just a few months ago, she got a call from producers at Eat This TV. They're a lifestyle network that helps distribute cooking shows across platforms like Amazon and Roku, and they asked her to come and film a pilot in New York. She had to compete against some other chefs, and in the end, they offered her the job.
That's amazing. But what does this mean for her current job?
Well, don't worry, she's not going anywhere.
Phew.
They're actually going to come to Denver to film the show starting this week.
And we're filming 3 episodes a day with 2 different dishes for 4 days straight. Boom, boom, boom.
And then we should be able to watch the show starting this spring.
And how is Chef Elise feeling about all of this?
Oh my gosh, well, she's so excited. She says it's a dream come true. In fact, she told me that the very first time she made a batch of chocolate chip cookies and saw how it made people feel, she knew that she wanted to do this.
You make good food, you can make a lot of people happy in a short amount of time. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to make people happy.
I think this assignment did make at least one reporter very happy.
Oh, yes. And I hope to follow up on the show and report back.
We would welcome that. Thanks, Haley.
Thank you, Bozzy.
Additional reporting for today's show came from Denverites Kevin Beatty and my co-host, Arlo. Keely Boyd's reporting on Tariffs originally appeared in the Art newspaper. You can find a link to that and all of today's stories in the show notes. Be sure to follow Colorado Today in your podcast app and give us a review. We'd love to know what you think. I'm Bozzy Kanani. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org. Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. The Safeway app features shopping for curbside pickup and home delivery, plus meal planning, pharmacy, and more. Learn more at Safeway.com.